Magda, you've achieved huge success, but has success carried any price, any cost that you may reflect on?
Look, I've achieved some success. Hopefully, I'm not at the end of that journey yet. Look, all successes are a combination of two things, hard work, extremely hard work, and a healthy dose of luck. A lot of people work really hard and never really achieve success. But you need to decide how you define success. So certainly, from a financial perspective, I am very comfortable. But, money doesn't really mean that much to me. Again, if you go back to my childhood, the fact that I had to leave things behind repeatedly means that material possessions actually don't give much meaning to my life. It's much more important to me that I have a family, that I have a circle of people I can rely on. Those are the things I value a lot more than some material possessions. So that's my greatest achievement, I believe, is actually the fact that I've got two sons. One is 17, one is 19. One got into Columbia University in New York, which is one of the Ivy universities. Hopefully the second one, who's in matric, will follow. And it's my relationship with them that is my biggest achievement in life. But the price I paid for all the, of getting here has been the fact, and probably my biggest regret has been the fact that, through their young years, when they were young and then, kind of primary school, I really wasn't there. I wasn't one of those mothers that had the time to bake cupcakes and attend picnics at school, inconveniently set at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
I worked, and I've always said to them that, as a working woman and as a working mother, you can't really have it all. So you need to decide what you're going to focus on. And my message to them has been that, I won't be the best mother in your young years, but I want to be the person in your lives that you turn to with every life problem, be it work-related, be it relationship-related, whatever it is.
It raises some questions around women in business in South Africa. If I were to ask you to give a report card on what it's like being successful and a woman in the South African corporate space, how would you describe that?
Look, I think it's tough. I think it's tough for any woman, particularly if you're looking at, and obviously my experience is financial services industry, so I can't talk about other industries.
Right.
But in financial services industry, effectively what you're looking at is you're looking at an industry driven by money. The moment you put money on the table, there are two emotions that immediately come up, and that's greed and fear. Greed for the money, fear of loss. And that usually translates itself into a much more aggressive behavior than you would potentially see in any other industry. So it's much more of a dog-eat-dog world. And working through, in various asset management companies, financial services firms, I've met women who, opt out of that environment. Women are much more collaborative in how they work. They want to be part of a team. They want to be recognized for what they do. They're not necessarily driven by high level of aggression and wanting to fight for their territory. And so, there are very few women in financial services. But, I've always said it's a bit of a function of both. It's a function of the fact that the cultural elements of it and that level of aggression is there, but also women who opt not to participate in that and, move into other industries which are not as cutthroat. My own experiences have been that, I've had to learn to not take things personally.
Yes.
To develop a much thicker skin. And I always think of myself, if I walk into a difficult situation as being in a bit of a Perspex box. Now, nothing touches me. You behave with utmost professionalism at all times. You don't get emotional. That also takes training for a woman, so we tend to cry a lot.
Some men too, I have to say.
Yes, I know, I've seen that, but it's more prevalent in women. So I've had to learn how to control all of that. You do have to make adjustments.
How open are you to new ideas? Do you think in some ways your experiences, although as a child seeing the collapse of the communist system, places quite a narrow frame on what you consider government might do in the economic space? Because you quoted as saying, government must eliminate the use of scary slogans such as land appropriation without compensation and radical economic transformation. Do you think perhaps you rule all of that out quicker than you should?
South African corporates are sitting on about 1.4 trillion rand of undeployed capital. And they're not looking at deploying it in South Africa to create jobs. They're looking at opportunities overseas. So the quickest way of scaring investors is to use slogans, particularly these ones, which were kind of in particular developed by Bell Pottinger. And there was a very real reason for those slogans, which was to sow this racial divide.
But they do speak to the need to address the inequalities in the country, even if you don't agree with the framing.
Absolutely, but you need to look at where these slogans originate and kind of go, well, is this what's required? I mean, do we really need to scare international investors? And that's how we're going to deal with inequality in this country. We need real strategies for dealing with inequality in this country. We need better education system as quickly as possible. We need job creation for a generation of unskilled youth who have no jobs. We need trade schools. We need artisan schools. There are so many needs on the table which we should be addressing, which are not being addressed, and obviously have not been addressed under Zuma, and I've got every hope that will be addressed by Cyril. To add volatile words to the equation, words don't mean anything. Words are usually designed to stir emotion, not action. I would like to see tangible plans, and then you can throw whatever slogans you want at it.
Of course, the other slogan that gets thrown out is inclusive growth, which is something you've spoken about yourself. Some people would say the big problem about inclusive growth is that it isn't, that there is growth and the wealth spread that's meant to happen invariably doesn't happen because captains of industry, male and female, argue for this, but when money comes in, they keep it.
Inclusive growth is fundamentally about job creation, about moving people from this kind of informal sector and moving people off social grants into more formal economy where they can earn a living.
Yes.
They can start building up a life. They can, in time become middle class and, upper income bracket. And we need very solid and tangible strategies for that. For that to happen, you need business, you need labor, and you need government to come together. And you need government to play a very particular role, which is kind of a combination of stick and carrot approach.
Yes.
Because, it's not enough to just have sticks. You do need to put some carrots on the table as well. You need to bring business kicking and screaming to the table to contribute to this equation. And you need labor to cooperate and trade unions not to constantly go on strike. To rather engage in conversations. And I believe they are, in fact, because I think this reality of what has happened economically in South Africa has struck every segment. So, the one thing that is the binding glue between the three parties is everyone recognizes that in order to deal with inequality, we need to have a thriving economy. And to have that thriving economy, you need the cooperation of these three segments.
Magda, I'm going to finish by offering you 3 wishes. What's your wish for young 17-year-old South African women looking to build their own careers?
Well, my wish for them is that, they focus on their careers, that they focus on acquiring skills that are necessary to be successful. And the biggest and most important skill is assertiveness and ability to speak out their minds. And that they, have that self-belief that they are unstoppable, that if they put their minds to it, they can achieve whatever they want to achieve.
What's your wish for South Africa?
My wish for South Africa is that, all this political volatility that has happened is put behind us, that we can deal with the corruption and all the history of the last 12 years as quickly as possible with minimum exertion of emotional energy, and that we start looking forward at tangible plans to right what has gone wrong and to build this country into, the beacon of economic, democratic society that it can be.
Wish number 3 is maybe the most important. What's your wish for yourself?
My wish for myself is to contribute, to play a more meaningful role in contributing to building South Africa or rebuilding South Africa. I don't want to judge myself by how much money I have in the bank. I want to be able to, at the end of, I always think of this scene on your deathbed. And
yes.
I want to think of myself on deathbed and be able to say, I've contributed, I've given back. I've been very fortunate in life, despite the tough beginnings. I've had a lot of luck, and which has allowed me to achieve a lot. So, to be perfectly honest, there's only so much money that you can earn and spend. So now it's about contributing to society. And I hope that I can find platforms for that contribution, which does not mean I intend to go into politics. I don't. I intend to stay in business. That's not it. But, I do want to contribute where I can.
Magda Wierzycka, many thanks for giving us your time on Under the Skin.
Absolute pleasure.